The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
More porn, more booze, and more body waxing. What happens at Neverland apparently doesn't stay at Neverland, at least not anymore, unlike those Vegas commercials. Hello, I'm James Curtis. Welcome to E's coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. A pop star strolled into the Santa Maria courtroom acknowledging fans ready for another day of courtroom battling. The singer's former attorney, celebrity lawyer Mark Geragos, took Judge Melville's warning seriously, as he should, and he got to court rather than face jail time under questioning by defense attorney Tom Mesereau. Geragos recalled why he was initially concerned about the accuser's family. Here's what he told the jurors, according to the courtroom transcripts.
Now, you said you started your own investigation, right?
That's correct.
And why did you do that?
The things that I was hearing about the gave me great pause.
What were you hearing?
I'll object as hearsay and irrelevance and lack of foundation and vague as to time.
I'm going to overrule the objection, and I'm going to allow the witness to answer. But I'll caution the jury that at this point, what he states that he heard about the family is not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, but it's offered to explain why he did certain things thereafter. Go ahead.
Thank you. When I was up there that day, somebody had told me a story about Gavin being told to refer to Michael as Daddy, and that Michael was uncomfortable with that. That the person that was telling me was probably one of the people who were, it was either Weisner or Konitzer or somebody who was up there, and that concerned him greatly. That obviously gave me pause, and so in response to that, I decided to run some database searches on the.
Did you run those database searches on the?
I did.
And what did you find?
A lawsuit against JCPenney's and then it purported, and then I had somebody, and I don't know if it was in office or not, take a look at the file or do a little bit more due diligence on it.
That was a look at the JCPenney file?
Correct.
Okay. And why did you do that?
Well, I had a concern at that point that given what was going on, that somebody might use the situation to manipulate my client.
And when you say manipulate your client, what do you mean?
Well, it was not unknown to me that my client was frequently the target of litigation. And you've got a whirlwind of activity around, and you've got people making accusations. It occurs to me that I want to know if some of the players that are involved have a litigious history. So that's why I ran the database search.
Makes sense to me. Next, the witness explains why he hired a guy named Brad Miller, who's a private investigator. He hired that person to monitor the accuser's family.
Did the investigation into the that you started continue?
Yes, I asked him to please find out where they were and to document what they were doing, who they were meeting with, and whether or not they were either trying to sell a story to the tabloids or meeting with lawyers or anything even more grave than that, at least from my client's standpoint.
When you say more grave than that, what are you talking about?
Well, I thought that at that time that it was a problem that somebody could manipulate the situation. I don't know. I don't want to run through a parade of horribles in my mind, but I thought that given what the situation was, somebody could take advantage of it, and I was worried about that. And so I decided I wanted to know, and I told Brad, tell me where they are, tell me what they're doing, and tell me who they're meeting with.
Does this explain away the suspicious, surreptitious, they're following me, videotaping?
Yes.
You don't get to go first because that's really a problem for the prosecution, isn't it?
It is a problem for the prosecution, and I have two things to say. Number one is that I have always thought that going for the false imprisonment charge was overreaching and was going to hurt their molestation case. So now they are hurt. But I've got to use the prosecutor's side here and say, because Howard is not here today, that Howard can no longer say the train is on the track, because the train is off the track, the way Howard means that it's always been against the defense. I don't understand how any of his state of mind gets into evidence.
Now, that's a very important point. Let's hover on that for just a moment.
Okay.
Sean Chapman-Holly, this comes in, as the judge said at the outset of the first part of the testimony that we listen to, not for what we know and what we call as the truth of the matter asserted. In other words, it's not coming in to say that this is what actually happened. It's just coming in to explain why this particular witness acted a certain way, why he took steps to protect.
Yes, and well, yes, but this is critical. The prosecution put on all sorts of evidence of this surveillance to demonstrate that this is part of this conspiracy to falsely imprison and abduct these children. It makes perfect sense in my mind that Mr. Geragos gets to come in and explain what the surveillance was really about, and it debunks this nefarious allegation put out there by the prosecution.
Sean, but the problem is, isn't it, the way this testimony came in, if these jurors can perform the mental, intellectual gymnastic that is required to say, okay, I heard that testimony, but I'm not going to think of that testimony as that actually happened. I'm just going to think of that testimony as that explains what he was thinking.
You're right.
How
and
do
Ricky's
they do that?
right.
I have a hard time doing that.
You're right, and Ricky's right. However, how many times did we have this very conversation when it was the prosecution's case?
Sure.
So come on, tit for tat.
So in
Can we
effect,
get a little
it's going
bit
to
on the
come in,
defense side?
and the jurors are going to conclude this actually happened. He hired these folks and hired this surveillance.
It's the same thing about telling jurors not to think about pink elephants, as pink as Sean's sweater. And, of course, all they're seeing now and all the viewers are seeing now are pink sweaters and pink elephants.
Sure, and Sean apparently is going to get to carry the day, at least on that point. Doggone it, come on, prosecution. As testimony continues, was it a case of Big Brother watching or justifiable precautions to protect the King of Pop?
Did you ever arrange to have the put under surveillance?
I told him at one point I wanted to know where they were, what they were doing, who they were meeting with, and to report back to me.
And as far as you know, putting people under surveillance is part of an investigation, and it's perfectly lawful, correct?
I have done it on more than one occasion. I know most lawyers do it with great frequency. I know DAs do it, and law enforcement does it.
Okay. And do you know whether or not the were actually put under surveillance at some point?
I do now, and I did then.
And you're aware that the prosecutors are claiming there was a conspiracy to commit various crimes on the right?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
I'm aware of that.
Were you ever part of any conspiracy to abduct the children?
No.
Were you part of any conspiracy to extort anything from the
Absolutely not.
Were you ever part of any conspiracy to commit any crime against the
Absolutely not. I was trying to prevent a crime against my client.
And what crime was that?
I thought that they were going to shake him down.
Well, whether it's in for the truth or not, that's good defense testimony. Next, Judge Melville reins in some rampaging tempers.
Did you ask any questions of Michael Jackson about whether he had been sleeping with boys during your conversation with him on the 7th of February at Neverland?
No, I did.
Objection, leading, lack of foundation.
Overruled.
No, I did not start questioning him about whether he was sleeping with boys when I was up there.
Did you know at the time that you were at Neverland on the 7th of February, assuming that is the date, that the issue of him sleeping with boys was in fact an issue that had been raised in this documentary?
I think that I did know that. I don't know whether it was through the documentary or whether it was from the download of information. I think I probably had that information.
Can I assume within the next 14 days after the 7th, in other words, up to the 21st of February, that you had by this point seen, personally viewed the documentary Living with Michael Jackson, the Martin Bashir documentary?
Yes.
And you had seen at that point Mr. Jackson's admission to sleeping with boys. Is that right?
Well, when you say admission to sleeping with boys, what are you saying? The statement that boys will stay in his room?
Yes.
Okay. Are you implying that's necessarily something sexual?
I don't believe it's appropriate for me to be answering questions, Mr. Geragos. Let's go back to the question again.
I'm confused as to when you say sleeping in his room. I didn't think. My concern was,
I'm
Mr.
going to
Zonin,
object as non-responsive.
I was trying to answer it.
Cutting off the witness, Your Honor. Objection.
Okay, everyone. We're going to have a timeout.
Next question?
No. I want you to drop down 2 degrees, and I ride horses, and we wait for the head to relax. Go ahead. Relax a minute. All right.
Thank you.
Now, you know, it's something about, and I'm sure you have been in this situation yourself, when there is an attorney on the stand, your level of aggression sometimes can really get a little bit more intense, no?
Yes, and in addition to the attorney being on the stand, you've got an attorney saying, Michael Jackson is really the best person in the entire world, and I was so worried about him because he was going to be shaken down by these terrible people. Ron Zona must be out of his mind.
What's really great about this testimony for the defense is that Geragos gets to get out major defense themes.
Major.
Yes, that he doesn't sleep in the bed with boys for sexual reasons, that he's the target of litigation now and in the past. Overriding defense themes Geragos gets in there, and the jury's got to be hearing that.
Yeah, Bo, you know, we got to talk some more about Geragos, even though we're going to move on to another witness when we return. Beautifying the accuser's mother and busting the accuser's brother. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Were the accuser and his family being held at Neverland against their will? Big issue in this case. And defense attorney Robert Sanger questions a beautician, her name is Carole McCoy, about an appointment she had with the accuser's mother. Remember, his name is Gavin. Here's what McCoy told jurors according to the courtroom transcripts.
Okay, 5087 is up on the overhead, and I think you told us that is the receipt for the work that you did, the services you performed for Janet from the ranch. Is that correct?
That's correct.
First of all, what date is that receipt dated?
February 7th.
And that's consistent with the date that you had the appointment with this particular individual, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, can you tell us, either by looking at the receipt or from memory, what precise services you performed?
She had a brow wax, a lip wax, face, leg, and bikini.
Is that pretty much a full body wax?
Uh-huh.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
During that time that she was there, was she free to leave?
Yes.
Did it appear to you that she was restrained in her liberty in any way whatsoever?
No.
Did she ask for help?
No.
Did she say anything whatsoever that suggested that she was not enjoying her visit at Neverland?
No.
Did she say anything or do anything whatsoever that suggested that she was being restrained in her liberty?
No.
Now, you said somebody dropped her off. Was it a man or a woman? Do you recall?
It was a woman.
Do you know the woman by name?
No.
And that woman, you said, dropped her off and then came back later, correct?
Correct.
So how long a period of time while Janet was there without anybody else there except you?
She was there at least an hour, a bit more.
Okay, and during that time, did you see anybody with a camera taking pictures of any of you?
No.
Did you see a positive PR film crew come into your spa and film the hair removal from Janet's legs?
No.
All right, folks, this may come as a surprise to you, but the prosecution passed on this witness. No questions. They saw no need to cross-examine the beautician. So the defense called the next witness, Maria Gomez, a maid who was at Neverland when the accuser's sister and brother were there.
Mrs. Gomez, do you recall seeing any adult magazines at Neverland?
Yes, on one occasion.
And do you recall seeing any of those magazines with the children?
Well, I'm pretty sure yes, because the Unit 2, there was a backpack with those type of magazines.
And who was staying in Unit 2?
Devlin and Starr.
And what did you do when you saw those magazines in Unit 2?
I left them there.
Did you tell anyone about that?
No.
Did you find them when you were cleaning?
Yes, but I just saw them.
Okay, and you saw them in a backpack?
Yes.
Okay, do you know who owned the backpack?
Well, I would suppose it was Starr's.
Okay. Do you remember seeing, was the backpack open?
Yes.
And do you recall seeing those magazines wrapped in a shirt?
Objection. Leading.
Sustained.
When you saw the magazines in the backpack, were they in full view?
The backpack was slightly open, and I saw those magazines.
Now, Ms. Gomez, like at least one other witness in this trial, used an interpreter. This is the official translation, again, according to the transcripts. The previous witness, though, no cross-examination. What do y'all think about that?
What's he going to do with her?
What is he going to do? Both Ms. Gomez and Ms. McCoy, the previous witness, directly impeach the family, Janet and Gavin.
Yeah.
And you either believe Gomez and McCoy or you believe that family, and I would have to say Gomez and McCoy are more believable.
And while that's true, I think that's a very good point for the defense. Don't you have to at least do what we learned in law school is an apparent cross-examination?
No.
Ask something that's going to give you some traction with this witness.
Zoning was totally jammed up in terms of cross-examining Carole McCoy. For heaven's sake, Gavin's mother, Janet, was insistent, absolutely insistent, that it was only a leg wax and that she paid for it, and she was really mad about being questioned about it. So now you have Carole McCoy saying, hey, it was really everything, and Janet didn't pay for it.
And that's true, but can't you say you didn't go outside and see a film crew to look to see if there was one there? I don't know, maybe something. On cross-examination, Assistant District Attorney Gordon Auchincloss wants to know where the accuser's brother, or where they rather, got the X-rated reading material.
As far as adult magazines go, there would be no place for children to get adult magazines at Neverland unless some adult gave them to them. Isn't that true?
Objection, foundation, leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
I don't know.
Well, you said there's no magazines lying around, so for those kids to get adult magazines, someone would have to give them to them, right?
Objection, no foundation.
Overruled.
I don't know.
As far as, and you did testify that you have seen adult magazines in Mr. Jackson's office. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've seen adult magazines in the bathroom. Is that another area?
No. In the office underneath the sink, I saw 2 magazines. And then in the children's room, Davalin and Star.
Next, former Neverland guard Shane Meridith recalls a security breach involving the accuser and his brother.
You went to see the wine cellar, correct?
Correct.
What did you see?
When I walked in, I saw the 2 children laughing, giggling, whatever. They were obviously startled. I kind of snuck down on them because I wasn't sure who was down there, and they kind of looked at me, and they were laughing, and I could see them with a bottle of alcohol that was in front of them.
Was the bottle open?
Yes, it was.
Did you say anything to them?
Yeah, I told them that they needed to get out of that area right now and get upstairs, which they did.
Did you see Michael Jackson anywhere near that wine cellar on that occasion?
No, he wasn't there.
Was there anybody else besides Gavin and Star?
No, it was just the 2 boys.
Did they seem to respond to your request?
Yeah, they were pretty shaken.
Not only, Ricky Kleeman, does this seem to be some pretty good defense evidence. We've got magazines on their own without the aid of Michael Jackson in the possession of these kids. We've got alcohol constructively possessed, that is in the realm, the reach of these kids with no Michael Jackson present, and the defense is zooming through witnesses.
Yes, it was a great day for the defense. I think there's no doubt about it. I mean, if I were Tom Mesereau, I would really be smiling at my colleague, Mr. Sanger. I think that this was the kind of day, and I know Sean will agree, where the defense says yes at the end of the day.
Yes. Not only is this further impeachment of Gavin and Star, but there's all sorts of testimony about how these boys are just completely out of control at this ranch.
Now, the idea, though, that this witness, and we'll hear more about this later, sees this wine, doesn't see them actually drinking, doesn't suggest perhaps for the prosecution that, well, the only way they got to the wine in the first place was through the assistance of Jackson or somebody else, because they wouldn't just initiate that kind of taking.
No. And I think that that's what the defense tried to do during the prosecution's case, was to show that although the wine cellar was off limits, that these kids knew how to get there.
But how do they get introduced to it? Doesn't the prosecution have an argument there that they may have gotten there on their own subsequent to Jackson helping them, showing them where it was, but afterwards, no?
Well, so you go tour a house. You go into a place that, I mean, I would take kids and say, hey, see the wine cellar. Doesn't mean I'm opening a bottle of wine.
You take kids to say,
here's they shouldn't do, places they shouldn't be.
Okay, you take kids and tour the wine cellar. Okay, Ricky. When we return back to the wine cellar, where some of the wine may be older than the kids who got caught with it there. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. So, who's doing the pouring at the Neverland wine cellar? Team Jackson says the accuser and his brother were strictly self-serve, but under questioning by Assistant District Attorney Gordon Auchincloss, former Neverland security guard Shane Meridith begins to see the half-empty bottle perhaps as half full. Here's what he told the jurors according to the courtroom transcripts.
When you went down there, Starr and Gavin were laughing.
Yeah, they were having a good time. They were obviously playing, goofing off.
Did they seem intoxicated at all?
You know, I didn't even get to talk to them that long. All I did when I came downstairs was, you know, just tell them that they weren't supposed to be in that area, and they knew better than that. They needed to get upstairs immediately.
You said there was a half bottle of wine that had been opened.
That's correct.
Do you remember where that half bottle of wine was in relation to Gavin and Starr when you went in the room?
They were behind the... Like I said, when you walk into to the wine cellar, there's a kitchen area that's in there. There's a table in that kitchen area. The wine was sitting there, and they were on either side of that bottle, just kind of standing, you know, standing, laughing, goofing off, pushing each other, doing things like that.
Any glasses?
No, I didn't see any glasses.
Did you smell any alcohol in their breath?
No, I did not. I did not.
So you really don't know whether or not they had been drinking that alcohol?
No, I can't guarantee that they were actually drinking the alcohol.
Aha!
Oh, come
Isn't it aha?
Oh, come on, really? I mean, he says that he didn't get that close to them. He just told them to go away. I think the implication is pretty clear that they're down there drinking the wine, and furthermore, they're in a place that they shouldn't be.
But,
James.
as the inimitable stage manager we have here, Tom pointed out when we were discussing this issue, who opened the bottle of wine? We can assume, can we not? This is not Screw Top, Boone's Farm, Annie Green Springs, or whatever people drink nowadays.
That's what corks are for. There's a cork in the bottle of wine. In the wine cellar, there's a kitchen there. There's a kitchen.
But you can assume that, you know, Michael Jackson isn't leaving half-open bottles of wine open. Somebody had to open the thing from scratch, no?
But yes, but there's also a no, and the no is this. At the time of the search, there are open bottles of liquor in Michael Jackson's room.
Thank you, Ricky.
Keep trying. Oh, you know, when
I'm
Sean
not sure who
wins,
that helps.
when Sean wins, she's just not. It's ugly. That's all for today. But we're officially on Celebrity Watch. Larry King, Jay Leno, and other big stars heading to Santa Maria. Be sure to join us tomorrow evening, 7:30 p.m. for our exclusive coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. Not letting you win anymore. Only on you.